Today we are going to feed the sourdough starter in preparation to make our sourdough bread. I always wear an apron because I always make a mess with the flour. So apron goes on. Every time I feed my starter, or every other time that I feed my starter, I like to switch containers just so one container doesn't get so gunked up as you see this one starting to get. So we're going to put it into this jar today. I like to do about 150 grams of starter, and you want even weight of everything. You need a good quality flour. You can use any kind of flour you want. I use bread flour, but you want it to be a good quality flour. You need warm water and your previously active starter. So I'm going to do 150 grams, 130. Let's do 130. 135. And the rest of that can go away, or you could dry it so you have like dried starter for later. All right, so I have actually 137 grams of starter in here. We're gonna do 137 grams of warm water. It's a little too much. Let me grab a spoon. If you put too much water in it, just use a spoon, pull it back out. 274 total, so that's 135 grams of, or 137 grams of starter, 137 grams of water. I'm gonna tear that out, and 137 grams of your flour. It's okay if you go a little over with the flour. You can really feed your starter whatever portions you want to. You get to the point where you don't really have to weigh your starter anymore. I just did it for y'all's benefit. All right, and you will mix it all up. You want it to be about the consistency of a thick pancake batter. Some people like theirs thinner, some people like theirs thicker. I like mine the consistency of a thick pancake batter. So you want to get it as mixed as possible. You want to clean the edges as much as you can, just so you can see the growth. Make sure your dough is your starter is growing. Put the lid on it, and you'll set it back to the back of your counter until it has grown, and you use it at its full peak, or just let it sit for 24 hours, discard half of it, and start all over again. All right, so now that the sourdough starter has been fed, hit its peak, and started to shrink, it's time to make our dough. So normally you want to get it as close to the peak as possible when you use it. It has shrank a little bit more than I like it to be when I use it, but we're going to see what happens anyway. So to make the dough, you need 4 simple ingredients: a good quality bread flour, lukewarm water, salt, and your starter. So your starter is actually just made of water and flour, so technically 3 ingredients. The tools you will need is a mixing bowl, a spatula, a kitchen scale. I like to use the Danish dough hook. You don't have to. You can certainly use your hands. A towel, measuring cup to scoop the starter with, and a 2-ounce condiment cup, I guess it's called. This is optional. It's the first time I'm ever going to use that, so let's see what happens with that as well. So first things first, wash your hands. Make sure you get your nails good and clean too, because you will be touching the dough with your hands. And if you're wearing any rings, remove those. So first things first, we're going to need 150 grams of starter. So you're going to take your kitchen scale, Place the bowl on top of the kitchen scale and turn it on. Make sure it's set to grams. So you want your starter to be nice and thick and stringy. So 150 grams, 150. So next you're gonna want 350 grams of warm water. Let's do 15 seconds to start. And make sure you zero your scale back out. Now you don't want your starter too hot. Your water too hot, because your starter is a live yeast. So if it's too hot, it will kill the yeast in your starter. You want it to be just a little bit warm to the touch. Not too cool, not too warm. Perfect. All right, so 350 grams of water. It's real easy to get too much water at this point. So make sure you pour slowly. All right, 350. Next, you're gonna take your Danish dough hook and mix your starter and your water together first until it becomes a homogeneous, milky mixture. Alrighty. You're gonna tear out your kitchen scale again, and then you want 500 grams of a good quality bread flour. You don't want to use like Walmart brand or Kroger brand, even though it's a lot cheaper. 500 grams. Oh look, a long lost measuring cup. That's awkward. 500 grams of bread flour, and then 10 grams of a good quality fine salt. I do have this set to the finest it will go, and this is pink Himalayan salt in here. I do suggest having some pre-ground salt on hand so you're not spending this forever to get 10 grams out of it. 10 grams of a good quality fine salt, and you are done with your kitchen scale. You're going to use your dough hook to mix all of this together the best as possible. And just make sure all the flour is incorporated. Once it gets start to get hard to mix with the dough hook, you can switch to your hands. So the environment in your kitchen will change the consistency of your dough. So what works at one part of the year might not work at the other. As you can tell, even though this measurements were from my winter dough, my dough is very, very sticky. So I want to add more flour. This is almost gone, so I'm comfortable with using my hand. You want it to be a shaggy dough, but you don't want it to be too sticky. And don't be afraid to overwork it. You can overwork it, but you don't want to underwork it either. Alrighty. So shaggy dough, it is a little bit sticky still, but that's about good enough. Next, you're going to want to get as much of this off of your hands as possible. You want to take your clean towel. Make sure your water is nice and hot. You want your water hot for this part. Wet your towel, squeeze out as much of the water as possible. Cover the bowl with your warm towel and let your dough rest for 1 hour. So we will see you back in an hour. Hey Google, set timer for 1 hour. Now that the dough has rested for an hour, you're gonna do 4 sets of stretch and folds, 1 set every 30 minutes. So you're gonna wanna wet your hands just a little bit. This part is pretty easy. You're gonna take one side, lift it up, fold it over, quarter turn. Lift it up, fold it over, quarter turn. Lift it up, fold it over, quarter turn. Last time. Stretch it up, fold it over. Guess you don't have to turn it that last time, but I did. Then you're gonna re-wet your towel with hot water again. Cover and let it rest for 30 minutes this time.
Yes, I'm gonna let you know just how much I tell your mama, I tell your papa too. I'm gonna let everyone know about my love, so I really hope you love me too. Yeah, I really hope you love me too. I'm gonna tell you that I need you. I need you every day.
All right, guys, so this is the fourth and final stretch and fold. If you can tell, the dough is more cohesive than it was when we started this process. What you're doing with these processes of stretch and folds is you're building the gluten and the structure of your dough. And you're making your dough stronger. So that's how you can see like it's harder to stretch and it looks more cohesive because you're working it so much. I'm just smoothing out the top right now. We will let this rest for another 30 minutes and be back to do the first shaping and the bulk ferment. And that's where that little condiment cup will come in. So we're gonna cover this and let it rest for another 30 minutes. So next we're going to pre-shape and then set it up to do the bulk ferment. So I have my mat laying out here. I'm just gonna lightly dust it with flour. Just turn the dough out onto that. Hand's a little damp. Turn the dough out onto that. You're just gonna spread it out a little bit. You don't need it to be like real specific. You want to get it into like a rough rectangle. You're going to take 40 grams of your dough. This is the part that I'm trying for the first time. You got your little 2-ounce condiment cup. So you want 40 grams of dough. See how that is? It's 25. Try to get it stuffed into the bottom the best you can. See, this is already, to me, I don't think it's gonna work. 40. And put the lid on. See, so the theory is, this obviously is not gonna work for me. The theory is you put 40 grams of dough into this 2-ounce cup, and once it has grown to the point where it touches the lid, then your main dough is done fermenting. However, my 40 ounces or 40 grams already touches the lid. So I don't quite know how to make that work. All right, there, should no longer touch the lid, but it does. So we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna have to trust our instincts. I'll do more research on that and maybe try it again next time. All right, so to shape your dough, you got your rectangle. You're gonna fold one side in, you're gonna fold the other side in, and then just roll it up. So then you're gonna push away from you, and this is just gonna tighten up the top of it and give it more of that ball shape, and pull it closer to you. Push it away and pull it tight. Push it away, pull it tight. Just do that a couple times, and what that's doing is it's tucking all this in and giving you that tight surface on the top. You're gonna take your prepped proofing basket. All you do is you dampen it a little bit, use a spray bottle just a little bit, put some flour in it, knock it around the edges, knock the rest of the flour out. You're gonna place your dough seam side up into the proofing basket. Redampen your towel with hot water, cover it, and this time you're gonna wanna put it in a warm space. So my favorite place to put it is in the oven with just the light on. And give that anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, depending on the environment that you're in, to double in size. And I will see you back when that happens. All right, guys, I pulled this out of the oven just so I could preheat my oven, but it is doubled in size, and I will show you how to tell if it is fully proofed. Oh, got a little bit of fuzzy from the towel in there. So you see how it jiggles? You want that jiggle. And then you could do what's called a poke test. You can either put flour or a little bit of water in your hand and you want to poke. My finger stuck to it too much, so it didn't. I struggle with the poke test because my finger really sticks to it. There. So you want it to not rise back too quickly. It did rise back a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera or not. You want it to rise back a little bit, but not fully. If it rises back all the way, it's underproofed. If it doesn't rise back at all, it's overproofed. Overproofed is okay, not great. You just don't want it to be underproofed. That's the most important part. So we're gonna do our final shaping. And while I'm doing this, I have my Dutch oven in the oven at 450 degrees preheating. We're gonna do our final shaping. And theoretically, the flour that you put on this earlier is supposed to prevent sticking like this, but it's not, so that's gonna be fun to get off later. All right, yeah, see all that still stuck in there? That's gonna be real fun to deal with later. All right, so the final shaping is gonna be very similar to the pre-shaping that we did. We're gonna sprinkle with a little bit of flour, a little bit on our hands as well. We're gonna do the whole push and pull thing again. A little bit too much flour here, it's not getting traction. Come on. There we go. And then for prepping your Dutch oven after you preheat it, a lot of people like to use parchment paper. I prefer to use butter and flour. But if you can see, you know your dough's ready because you start to see bubbles. There's one big bubble there. There's a bubble here, a bubble here, bubble here. Those bubbles are all very good things. So once you get it to about the shape and tightness that you want, that looks good. You're gonna pull your Dutch oven out of the oven. So I like to prep my Dutch oven with a little bit of butter. Almost like a cake. So you do butter on the bottom. Sizzle, sizzle. A slight dusting of flour. You can use cornmeal, rice flour. I have bread flour right now, so that's what I'm using. And you're gonna shake out all the extra. Carefully place your shaped dough in the center without burning yourself. You're gonna take your bread lame. I just changed the blade on it so it's nice and sharp. And you're gonna score it. You want it to be fairly deep, but not too deep. It helps if your dough's a little bit cold, but we didn't do the cold ferment today. So we got that cut. We're gonna put the lid back on it, which I almost grabbed with my bare hand like an idiot. And it's gonna go in the oven at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. Hey Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
Got it, 20 minutes. And that's starting now.
It's been 20 minutes, so we are going to try not to rip off the towel off the front of the oven. We're going to drop the temperature down to 400. We're going to take the bread out. Watch your face because it is very hot. Ooh, that's hot, 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 hot. Take the lid off and I'm just going to show you what it looks like so far right now. It's a little bit misshapen because it was difficult for me to get it in there appropriately. I'm going to center it some more. As you can see, this is where I cut it. This is called the ear that's sticking up. So we're going to put it back in the oven for about another 40 minutes or until this is the amount of done that we want it to be. With the lid off. Hey Google, set timer for 30 minutes.
Sure, 30 minutes. And we're starting now.
All right, guys, we're gonna see if it needs the extra 10 minutes or not. I'm gonna take it out of the oven. Let the puff of hot air get out first. And here we are. Hot tamales. And there's our loaf of bread. It's dark enough for me. Let's just make sure it's done internally. So you want the internal temperature of your bread to be around 200 degrees. Perfect. So it's over 200 degrees, so the internal is done. We have this darkening of the ear edge, which is exactly what you want. We have hollow sound, which is exactly what you want. Hot. You got a tough exterior. Nice crunch. You want it to cool down completely before you cut into it. And I will show that to you guys whenever it's cooled down. We will see y'all back in about an hour.
Don't get weary of my touch. That's how much I'm gonna tell you. I wanna let you know. Oh, you're the only one for me. No one else. I'm gonna shout it out. Yeah, up on the mountaintop. I'm gonna let everyone know.
All right, now that the bread's cooled down, it's time to cut. Y'all hear that amazing crunch? I'm going to show you the inside crumb. You see all those gorgeous holes? Yeah. It has perfect spring back. Yum. I'm going to show you my favorite way to eat a fresh slice of sourdough bread. This is actually going to end up being my dinner because I did not cook tonight. It's still warm in the center, so I guess it wasn't fully cooled. My bad. So normally I would like to toast. You can't see me right now. I tried to talk to you. Normally I would like to toast the bread, but we're not going to do that right now. But my favorite toppings is Good Culture cottage cheese and a little bit of balsamic glaze. And I sometimes like to top it off with a little bit of rosemary olive oil, but I'm currently out of that. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this in half and do half with just butter. There we go. And if you are one of those people who think that you do not like cottage cheese, I promise you, try this. Good Culture cottage cheese. I thought I didn't like cottage cheese, y'all. I thought I did not, but I could eat this whole container with a spoon. I won't, but I could. And cottage cheese is very high in protein, which is good for you. And it is very low in carb, which is also good for you, which I guess is pointless when you're slapping it on bread, but hey. All right, let's give it a shot. That is just about perfect. Let me show y'all what I got going on here. This is my cottage cheese with a little bit of balsamic glaze. So the thing is, with homemade sourdough bread, it's all natural. So it doesn't have that fake sour flavor that you're gonna get from a store-bought sourdough bread. So store-bought sourdough bread has a stronger sour flavor. I have found that my sandwich loaf has more of a sour flavor than my artisan loaf does. So if you want to see how to make a sandwich loaf, tune in next time because that's the next thing I have on the agenda. Y'all have a great night.